Hey guys, what's going on? It's time for another week in review where I share with you the comics I read for the past week. One of the things that's kind of been bothering me, I gotta ask you guys who, I know if you're watching these videos, you're obviously a fan of comics, so I just gotta ask you your opinion on this. Lately, there have been an uprise in comic book themed movies. Deadpool just came out. Of course, before that, there were all the Spider-Man movies, there were the Batman movies, the X-Men movies, and some have been really great films, some have been flops, and of course, there's more films that, just this past, weekend, well, at the time of filming this, recently the Batman Superman movie got released. And I know there's going to be the Age of Apocalypse movie coming up soon. But one of the things that really bothers me when it comes to this kind of stuff is you always got these people who are like, I don't like reading superhero comics. But then, they say that. But then, as soon as one of these comic book films becomes a blockbuster, it is really popular all of a sudden to read that comic. I don't get these people. These same people will say they don't like reading superhero comics, but then as soon as it becomes popular, it becomes a great movie, then all of a sudden they're fucking interested in reading comics. I don't get it. What do you guys think of that? I had to throw that out there because it's one of the things that really, you guys know, I read a lot of comics, so I'm a comics fan. Yes, the movies are great, but the movies aren't making me read these books. I'm going to read them because I love books, and I love comics. Well, the first book, not to go on a tangent, but the first book I read this week was Swamp Thing Cedar, and this is volume 4. If you guys have been following me for a while, you know that I absolutely love the new 52 Swamp Thing. This is brilliant. Alan Moore did a good job with the Saga of the Swamp Thing, but this has been really, really good, and I'm not even sure who. Okay, Charles Soule wrote this, and I have to say he's done a great job with this. I'm really digging these Swamp Thing books. I mean, yeah, this one, it was kind of slow to start. It did feature a cameo of the Scarecrow and Superman and John Constantine, of course. John Constantine seems to turn up in these Swamp Thing books every now and then. And he's that one DC guy, people love to hate him. This was so good. Even though nothing really went on, I still really enjoyed this. I have to say, guys, if you have not read any Swamp Thing, you should definitely be checking this out. This is a book that I definitely rated 4 out of 5 stars. Very good. I can't wait to read the books following this one to see where this story's going. After that, I read Earth 1 Batman Volume 2. Now, this is one, I love this Earth 1 because it kind of makes the DC superheroes kind of more real. It's almost like in a world like ours where if these heroes had gotten their start in our world. So, of course, this one introduces the Riddler and the Killer Croc. At first, this did have a slow start. I'll admit, it did have a slow start. It does have a twist where Harvey Dent has a twin sister, and I'm not going to say anything more about that situation because if I do, I'll spoil the story for you because it was so good. I love how they kind of draw the costume so it looks like a real costume that that some guy could make and be the Batman. I love how, they show the aspect of Harvey Bullock and how he's just like a drunk and he's trying to pick himself up and try to be a good detective, and Jim Gordon working with the Batman. This was so good, guys, and I have to say, this was another book that I also rated 4 out of 5 stars. If you have not checked out any of these Earth 1 books, you should be definitely reading these. They're pretty cool. It's a new approach to the DC characters. Okay, one that I think... Next we have Batman The Dark Knight Volume 4, and this one is Clay. Now, I'd have to say that like 3/4 of this book features the villain Clayface, which is kind of an interesting villain. I think he's kind of an attention-seeking, baddie which I find annoying, but I think he makes a kind of cool villain because he can morph into anybody he wants to look like, which makes him kind of hard to keep track of. And after that, they show, like, the last quarter of this book is the Man-Bat. So I really enjoyed this. It showed the origin for Clayface, and I guess, I'm not going to tell you how he became Clayface because I don't want to spoil it for you. But I thought it was kind of interesting. It showed the villain a little more in depth than what I had known before. And I rated this one 4 out of 5 stars. Definitely worth picking up. After that, I picked up Batman Endgame, and I think this is Volume 7. Of course, if you can see from the cover, the Joker is back, and there's very little I can say about this without spoiling it. If you guys weren't aware, the Joker had disappeared. Batman basically thought he had killed him. And he's back. I'm not going to explain how he's back, but there's a reason he's back that you'll find out if you read this. A lot of people felt the same way about this book that I did. This has got really strong ratings on Goodreads. I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. Some people felt as strongly as 5 out of 5 stars. And then there were the very rare few who thought it was bad. They just didn't like it. But I really enjoyed this. I really don't know what to think of the ending because I don't know what that means to the whole series as a whole. But I can't say too much more about it. But it was a great story. After that, I read Secret 6, and this is like these mercenaries is the best way you can describe them because it's Catman, Deadshot, Scandal, Savage, Ragdoll, and Bane all get together. They're hired to break out this villain from some super prison, and that person has this this item that's of value, like some kind of mystical item. To tell you the truth, guys, I kind of thought that the cover looked cheesy. Right away when I saw this, I was like, yeah, this doesn't look like it's going to be very good. I know that a lot of people on my friends list of Goodreads were anticipating reading this. I saw that they had added it, that they wanted to read it. And to be quite honest with you guys, I thought this was horrible. I quite seriously, I hated this. And it did feature a cameo with Batman. Batman is in this briefly. It was just so bad. Like, it just seemed like a bunch of villains. Most of them I'd never heard of or never seen before were in this. That's not even the Secret 6 I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like, other villains that were in the story. I only rated this 1 out of 5 star. I really didn't like it, guys. Okay, I know I've kind of fallen behind on my comic book reviews this week because I have like a stack of 4 books to share with you guys. I've been kind of busy. But this one is Moon Knight From the Dead Volume 1. I have to say that there were a few people who just didn't like this as much as others. They felt like very lost because I do have to admit this has minimal dialogue. This is a reboot of Moon Knight, and I think the writers and creators of this book were assuming that you had followed the previous incarnation of Moon Knight, so they kind of figured you kind of knew who Moon Knight was. So that was one of the reasons why I highly enjoyed this, and I did rate this 4 out of 5 stars. I thought this was a really cool reboot of Moon Knight, but others just kind of felt lost. So I do have to say, if you have yet to read this, I think you should go back and read the prior, not the earliest Moon Knight books, but like the prior incarnation of Moon Knight before this. After that, I read the sequel, which was Volume 2, Dead Will Rise. Now this one, it was not as good as the first one. I only rated this one 3 out of 5 stars. I mean, it's kind of dying down a little bit. And then for Volume 3, which I have to admit I read before even reading these, I read a while ago, and that one I thought was excellent because they got Cullen Bunn to write that, which he's a really good horror writer, and I think he would have been perfect for this project if they would have got him from the get-go. But then, of course, I guess they already canceled that series. After that, I read Avengers, Ultron Forever. This is one. This Captain America is the daughter of Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. So it's Danielle Cage, which I thought was pretty cool. And what happened is these different Avengers from different periods of time were brought together to try to stop Ultron in the future. And that was, at one point, the story was really, really good. I was thinking it was going to be a 4-star rated story. But then, it kind of really got ho-hum towards the end. And then, of course, the ending of this book was all filler. And there were certain items, like pieces of stories previous, like to other timelines, were mentioned. And those filler stories that mentioned those events were put in the back. So if you had not read them, you could read up on them. So, of course, the filler stories, I only thought this was a 3-star book because of the filler stories. It's worth picking up if you like Avengers and Ultron and all that. It's worth reading. After that, I read The Empty Man by Cullen Bunn, and this is a Boom Studios. Basically, it takes place in this world where there's this epidemic where people they don't know what it is. They don't know if it's a communicable, if it's a virus or if it's just hysteria. But people start harming themselves and committing suicide, and they say the Empty Man made them do it. This was good. I like it. It was kind of, it's a thriller, and I like Cullen Bunn's writing style. But when I got to the end, when they kind of resolved and let you know what it was and what was behind it, I thought it was kind of not what I was hoping. So I only rated this one 3 out of 5 stars. It was just okay. Cullen Bunn is a good writer, so it was well written. The artwork is kind of interesting, but it could have been much better. Okay, this is where I'm going to end this week in review with Emmy Town, a sketch diary by Emmy Lennox. I really didn't know that this was going to be a sketch diary. While it does sound like an interesting concept for your own personal use, I guess, I really just, it was so scattered because it's this person's personal, diary of events that happened from, a 2-year time period. So I just really could not get into this. I only read, a quarter of this, and I was like, no, I am not going to suffer through this extremely long book. So yeah, I DNF'd this, and I only gave it a 1 star. I really just think this is too personal for someone to, public release this to the public. So that is my latest week in review. If you've read any of these, or if you hope to read any of these, let me know down below what your thoughts on them are, and thank you for watching.